Welcome to my channel.
And this is English Podcast Station.
Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're diving into something super practical. Ordering food at a restaurant in English. Think of it as, your guide to handling menus confidently.
Yeah, absolutely. Whether you're traveling, maybe studying abroad, or just, trying a new place locally.
Exactly. It seems simple, but it's such a core skill, isn't it? It really helps you engage with the culture.
It really does. And for anyone learning English, especially if you're prepping for exams, like IELTS maybe, this stuff is gold.
Oh, definitely. Ordering food, eating out, it pops up all the time in IELTS Speaking Part 1. And the skills, we'll cover the words, being polite, understanding different places, it all feeds into Part 2 potential as well.
Right. So in this deep dive, we're going to unpack the essential vocabulary you need.
Okay.
We'll talk about why being polite, goes such a long way.
Crucial.
And also how things change, like ordering in a fast food place versus a really fancy restaurant or even a buffet. They're all a bit different.
Right. One size does not fit all here. So the mission today, make ordering food in English totally stress-free, maybe even enjoyable.
Let's do it. Ready to jump in?
Yep. Let's start with the basics, the vocabulary.
Okay, the building blocks. Knowing these terms gives you a real head start.
First one, probably the first thing you see. The menu.
Right, the menu. It's basically the list, isn't it? All the food, all the drinks the restaurant offers.
Yeah.
And importantly, the prices.
Yeah, I gotta check those prices.
You might hear, the waiter handed us the menu. Something like that.
Okay, and speaking of waiters, who are the people actually serving us?
Good question. That's your waiter, the man serving you, or your waitress, the woman?
And how do you get their attention politely?
A simple, excuse me, waiter, or excuse me, waitress, usually does the trick. Just catch their eye politely.
Got it. Now, what if it's a busy place and you want to make sure you get a table?
Then you'd make a reservation. That's when you call ahead or book online to save a table for a specific time.
So when you arrive, they might ask.
They'll likely ask, do you have a reservation?
And if you don't have one, or you have to wait anyway.
Then you might end up in the waiting area. It's just that spot, usually near the entrance, where you wait for your table to be ready.
Okay, makes sense. We waited in the waiting area for about 10 minutes.
Exactly.
All right, we're seated. We have the menu. What about those first little dishes you might order before the main meal?
Those are appetizers, or sometimes people call them starters. Small dishes to, kick things off.
Like soup or maybe some bread?
Yeah, exactly. For appetizers, we ordered the soup, for example.
Okay. Then comes the main event, the big dish.
That's your main course. Or, and this can be a bit confusing sometimes, it's also called the entree.
Ah, entree. I've heard that. Is there a difference?
Well, it depends where you are. In the U.S., entree usually means the main course. But in the U.K. and some other places, entree can sometimes mean the appetizer, the starter.
Oh, okay. That's actually really useful to know. Good tip.
Yeah, context is key there. But generally, main course is always clear. I think I'll have the fish for my main course.
Right. And what about the extra bits that come with the main course or that you order separately?
Those are side dishes. Things like French fries, vegetables, a small salad. They accompany the main dish.
Like, I'll have the steak with a side dish of mashed potatoes.
Perfect example.
And after the main course, if you've still got room,
Then it's time for dessert. The sweet course at the end. Cake, ice cream, fruit.
you have my favorite part.
Mine too. You might ask, are you having dessert? Or what's for dessert?
And finally, everything you drink. What's the general term?
We call those beverages or just drinks. Water, soda, juice, coffee, tea, wine, beer. It covers everything liquid.
So you could ask, what beverages do you have?
Precisely.
Great. Okay, so that's a good set of core words. Menu, waiter, waitress, reservation, waiting area, appetizer, starters, main course entree, side dishes, dessert, and beverages, drinks. Now, how do we use these politely? That feels important.
Oh, absolutely crucial. Politeness really smooths the wheels in English-speaking dining. It makes a huge difference to the interaction.
So what are the absolute must-knows for politeness?
Well, the non-negotiables are please and thank you. You really can't overuse them. Use please when asking for anything.
Could I have some water, please?
Exactly. And thank you whenever someone does something for you. Brings the menu, takes your order, refills your glass.
Simple, but effective. Now, you mentioned ordering. Saying I want can sound a bit demanding, can it?
It can, yeah. It's direct, and people will understand you. But it's not the most polite way. It sounds much better to say, I would like.
Or the contraction.
Even better, the contraction. I'd like. It just sounds more natural, more conversational. I'd like the chicken, please.
I'd like. Okay, I'll remember that. It does flow better. Any other magic words for requests?
Yes, using could you or may I is really good for questions or asking for something.
Instead of just, where's the toilet?
Right. You'd say, excuse me, could you tell me where the restroom is, please? Or may I have the bill, please? It just softens the request.
Good. And may. Got it. That's a nice touch. Okay, so we have the words. We know how to be polite. But you mentioned earlier that it's not the same everywhere. Fast food versus fancy. How does that work?
That's a really key point. You definitely adjust your communication style depending on the setting. It's not a rigid script.
Okay, let's break it down. Start with fast food. Quick, easy. What's the language like there?
It's generally much more direct, concise. Speed is usually the priority. Often you'll just order by number if they have numbers on the menu.
Right. I'll have a number 3, please.
Exactly. Very common.
And what about the staff? What do they usually say?
Pretty standard phrases. After your first item, you'll almost always hear anything else. And the other big one is, will that be for here or to go?
Ah, yes. Can you quickly explain for here and to go for anyone unsure?
Sure. For here means you're going to eat inside the restaurant. To go, or sometimes takeaway, means you're taking the food out to eat somewhere else.
Clear, simple, direct. Okay, now let's shift gears. What about casual dining? Like a regular cafe or a family restaurant?
Here, the language is still pretty straightforward, but politeness is definitely expected. You'll use your I'd like and please quite naturally.
So, I'd like the cheeseburger, please.
Perfect. And the staff might greet you with something friendly like, hi there, how can I help you today? Or what can I get started for you?
Seems approachable. Do they ask other questions?
Yeah, they'll often ask about choices, especially with side dishes. Would you like fries or salad with that kind of thing?
Okay, standard stuff. Now let's move up a notch. Fancy restaurant definitely feels different, more formal.
Absolutely. The whole atmosphere is more formal, and the language reflects that. It's more elaborate, more deferential sometimes.
So the greeting might be different.
Yes, you're more likely to hear, good evening, madam, or good evening, sir, welcome, and they'll almost certainly ask about a reservation right away.
And ordering, does that change too?
It does. The staff might be less rushed. They might ask, are you ready to order? Or would you like a few more minutes? Give you more space.
Okay. And as a customer, what phrases might help you sound, appropriate for the setting?
You could use slightly more formal phrasing, like I'll start with for your appetizer, or for my main course, I think I'll have.
Sounds smoother.
It does. And when you are ready, instead of just shouting, waiter, you catch their eye and maybe say quietly, we're ready to order, thank you.
Right. And I've noticed in nicer places, they sometimes suggest things.
Yes, that's quite common. The server might say, perhaps the chef's special tonight, or may I recommend the. They might also summarize your order back to you at the end, just to confirm everything.
Okay, that paints a clear picture. Formal, but helpful. Last one, buffets. That's a totally different system.
Completely different dynamic, yeah. Because you're mostly serving yourself.
So less interaction with staff about the actual food.
Generally, yes. The main interaction is usually when you pay, maybe at the start, and perhaps to order drinks separately.
What might the staff say then?
When you arrive, they might just explain the setup. Something like, you can help yourselves to the buffet over there.
Simple enough. And as a customer, what might you need to ask?
Maybe just practical things like, excuse me, where can I find the plates? Or could I order a coffee, please? If drinks aren't self-service.
Gotcha. So mostly about logistics rather than menu choices. Wow, okay. We've covered a lot of the words, the politeness, how it changes. Why is nailing this skill, ordering food in English, so important in the bigger picture?
Well, like we said at the start, it's just such a fundamental life skill, isn't it? It makes travel so much less stressful and more immersive.
True.
If you're living or studying abroad, it's essential for daily life. And honestly, it just opens up your ability to explore food and culture without that language barrier holding you back.
And thinking about language learners, or specifically those IELTS candidates we mentioned, how does this fit in?
Oh, it's incredibly relevant. Ordering food, restaurants, eating habits, these are super common topics in everyday chat. And yes, specifically in IELTS Speaking Part 1.
So practicing this helps directly with the exam.
Absolutely. You're practicing real world vocabulary, using those polite phrases, getting pronunciation practice on common terms, plus understanding how to adapt your language to the context. Fast food versus fancy, that's a sophisticated skill that examiners look for.
Right. So it's not just about getting fed, it's building confidence, fluency, and those practical communication skills that apply way beyond the restaurant.
Precisely. It boosts your overall confidence in using English in real situations.
Well, this has been a fantastic deep dive into ordering food in English. We've hit the key vocabulary, the importance of politeness. I like, please, thank you.
And we've explored how you need to sort of tune your language depending on whether it's fast food, casual, fancy, or a buffet.
Yeah, understanding those nuances is key. So, our advice to you listening is next time you have the chance, use these tips.
Yeah, try out the vocabulary. Remember your please and thank yous. Notice the type of place you're in.
And don't be nervous. See it as practice. Every time you do it, it gets a little bit easier, a little more natural.
Definitely. It becomes second nature after a while.
So here's something to think about as we wrap up. How might understanding these sort of small details, the language, the cultural expectations around something as simple as ordering food, how might that actually deepen your whole experience when you engage with English-speaking cultures?
Ooh, interesting question. And maybe what other everyday situations could really benefit from this kind of focused look at language and context? Where else could understanding these subtle differences lead to, smoother, maybe more rewarding interactions?
Something to ponder. Think about that, and until our next deep dive, happy eating.